That's it. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Meet the Affineur competitors of the Quicks Cheddar. We have a great roundtable session lined up for you this evening. We're just going to chatter amongst ourselves, or not, all about wonderful world of cheese. With the affinage webinars, this is the first one to meet the competitors. So obviously there's 4 rounds because there's 4 cheeses. So if you haven't been able to join tonight and you're watching this on the recording, do try and join us live for the other one, which we'll be posting up in our events page on the Academy website. We would love for you to put in the chat. Someone's in here already. Greetings all. Sue Sturman. Hello, Sue.
Oh, hi, Sue.
Oh. And then we have, do put where you're watching us from, joining us from in the chat. Do please add any questions into the chat, and I'll attempt to answer them, and then Sue will correct me. No, we've got this great panel of experts tonight, so we will all answer them. And you can use the Q&A section in the bottom of the webinar. So we've got Sue's joining us from Paris, fantastic. Ed is here from Harefield. Do tell us. Anyway, we're going to get started.
From Ireland, woo!
Justin's got the giggles because he's got his colleagues prodding him from behind, I fear.
It's just that.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Oh, don't know who that was. I think it was James, maybe. I'd like to do a quick round robin of everybody just to quickly intro who you are and which companies you're from, and where you are in the world, where you are in the country. We know that all of you are maturing the Quicks Cheddar for this webinar. So, right. Justin, do you want to start off?
Yeah, hello, I'm Justin. I work for number 2 Pound Street in Wendover. And yeah, we're affineurs on a newcomer basis, I would say, for the last 2 years. We mature cheeses for local restaurants, hotels, and yeah, it's something that the whole team behind us have got a big passion through. So with the Quicks that we've taken on, it's not just myself, but it's the team behind it as well, which is really exciting.
Fantastic. So lots of team building behind your entry. Brilliant. And then Andy Swinsko, legend, absolute legend, from up north, is joining us. Hi, Andy.
Hello, thank you for having me, Tracy. Yeah, I'm Andy. I'm from the Courtyard Dairy in Settle in North Yorkshire, and we just try and sell traditional farm cheese. Really, it's pretty simple. You know, it's try and work with small producers who still make cheese by hand. We try and sell cheese in great condition, and part of that is the maturation. But for us, you know, that's the background of our business, is just trying to sell it as it should be, really.
It's brilliant, fantastic to have you on board this year, Andy, because I think it's your first year in the competition, which the competition's only in its 2nd year. So then we've got Svetlana. Introduce yourself to us.
Hi, I'm Svetlana. I'm the founder of the Cheese Lady Shop. We are based in Scotland, just south of Edinburgh. We, of course, specialize in farmhouse and artisan cheeses. And I do have some training in affinage. I trained with Hervé Mons in France and learned about his tricks of the trade, so to speak, back in the day. And now in our current new shop, we have room for doing our own maturation, albeit a small room, but it is a maturation room. So we're starting to experiment with maturing some cheeses, such as Mary's Quicks Cheddar and Osserati and things like that. So yeah, having great fun.
Fantastic. Welcome from Scotland, our first competitor from Scotland. So lovely to have you on board with us this year, Svetlana. and great that you've got these new maturing rooms. So no better way to experiment and yes, no fingers crossed. And you trained with one of the legends, so brilliant, fantastic. And then Will, where are you joining us from tonight?
Hello, hello. Yes, I'm Will. I'm from Neal's Yard Dairy. So I'm here we have 3 shops and I'm in the shop in Covent Garden, just around the corner from Neal's Yard. As a company, we do a lot of affinage. We have some railway arches in South London where we do mature a lot of cheese. But my job, I just run the Covent Garden shop. And so usually I'm, a cheesemonger. So
Fantastic.
last year, my colleagues at our other shop in Borough Market, one of our other shops, they matured a Quicks cheddar. And so this year I'm doing, well, me and my team here, we're doing the Quicks cheddar.
Brilliant. You've taken on, that's the thing. Now we've got the 4 cheeses that were maturing, the cheddar and the Stilton and the washed rind, and remind me, everybody, what the 4th one is. How can I forget? Baron Bygod. So now we've got the 4 cheeses. I think you've split them across the Neal's Yard Dairy shops as to who's maturing, competing with each.
3, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And then we have the legend, that is Mary Quick, joining us from Devon, I believe. Hi, Mary.
Hi, it's so exciting, and I just want to say how inspired I am by the Affineur of the Year competition, as developed the brainchild of the awesome Patrick Spinazzo, who I notice is on the webinar. Thank you, Patrick, who said, "Come on, let's get people interested in affinage." It's something that we don't even have an English word for it, for God's sake. That's a French word, and we realized that we knew about maturing our cheeses. Here's a lovely rind of a 15-month-old cheese I've got here, that we know about that. And in the main, in this country, cheesemakers understand about maturing their own cheeses. But what I realized is that, talking over with Patrick, that we've got no perspective on the kind of things that you would have learned at Mons, Svetlana, and what the skill of affinage is. In Europe, the fruitiers, the individual cheesemakers would be making cheese, and they would then those cheesemakers would go to an affineur who would understand what it takes. And it just felt like it was a huge opportunity with the Academy of Cheese to actually start to open, it's the point of the Academy of Cheese, that we create this amazing community of people where we start to really open it out and share and to learn and to develop things that we really didn't know before. And actually, one of the other things that I'm inspired about by the Affineur of the Year is that in cheese making, there's definitely, or in cheese, in the world of cheese, it's definitely the cheesemakers are the glamorous people on the block. And actually, if you see how we share the work between us, where the value lies, it's really important that we get to understand and celebrate and support and encourage all of those people in the chain. So it isn't just, wonderful cheesemaker. It's actually wonderful cheesemonger, wonderful affineur. And we really wanted to kind of wrap our minds around and celebrate and get people familiar that there was a whole other world that you guys could play with. And that was one of the reasons we sent the cheese to Lucy and to Heritage, is to send new cheese to start getting that awareness of this amazing discipline out there to the general public, and consumers, so that they too can understand what it is we're all going to be playing at, so that we can all kind of get our place in the sun of kind of the glamour of artisan cheese. I don't know if that's what you wanted, Tracy.
I think you're going to have a few cheesemongers fighting you about cheesemakers are more glamorous than cheesemongers.
Well, did you mean it's the cheesemakers who get hit? That's one of the reasons we set up Academy of Cheese, wasn't it?
Yeah.
that, cheesemakers, if you say you're a cheesemaker, people go, oh my goodness. If you say, I sell cheese in a shop, I'm a cheesemonger, they go, oh yeah, you're a shop assistant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what we wanted to say,
Changing
no,
that
these
perception.
guys are amazing. These guys, guys and girls, are people who really know their stuff, who really add value down the chain, who and also who can make a distinctive contribution.
Most definitely. And you've done a lovely intro to our gorgeous Lucy, who's sitting there looking super glamorous with cheese earrings and
I want them.
And Lucy, everyone, is from Chiswick Cheese Market, and she's our sponsor for the trophy, for the cheddar trophy, for the hard cheese category. So Lucy, I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us about what you've been doing there at Chiswick Cheese Market before we start talking full on about affinage.
Okay, so the Chiswick Cheese Market, we started, there were 10 ladies like myself who were cheese lovers, who are chefs, cooks, cookery writers, what have you, and we organised events to raise money for charity. And during COVID, we set up the cheese market really to help cheese producers have a route to market during the pandemic. And also to help our community have an event on the high street. And it's grown and snowballed, and 15 months later, we are 40 stalls big with over 180 different artisan cheeses sold every month. So we're a once a month thing. Justin comes along every month from number 2 Pound Street. You can vouch that it's a good old occasion, isn't it?
It's incredible.
And it's every third Sunday in a month.
Every third Sunday of the month on Chiswick High Road in West London, and it's phenomenally popular, and we have honestly some of the very best cheeses in the world, and we're supported by all people from all over London and outside come and buy a month's worth of cheese, and it is just fabulous for everybody. It's a great interaction. You can come and speak to makers and mongers who know exactly where this cheese has come from and how it got there. And for a cheese lover like myself, it's just a thrill. Every month is a thrill, So that's exciting. And I think last year we came along to the first Affineur of the year, and we were blown. Do you know what blew us away more than anything was the camaraderie and the swapping of knowledge between everybody, and the good humor and the inquisitiveness everybody had. And I know we saw, because our journey through cheese, I mean, we started this as complete cheese monsters and lovers, but we've grown and we've done the courses at the academy, and we're now, we know a lot more about cheese and understand that affinage is such a big part of the end product. The milk's important, the actual manufacture, the splitting of the curds and the whey, but what happens to it after that is alchemy. It's magical. It's so unique to everybody's environment and care and all the rest of it. So we were super keen to support it on that level, but also super inspired by coming to the event last year, just seeing how the interaction between the different cheese makers and the affineurs, to see what was happening. So we alluded quickly, didn't we, Mary? We wanted to tell our customers at the cheese market what affinage was, because as Mary says, it's a French word and nobody gets it. Nobody gets what it is. So I rang Mary and asked if she could send us a week-old cheese or something so we could have a starting point, because we could do 3 months, we could do 12 months. You had that ready for us to go. And you sent us over it was about 10 days old when we got it. And we set up a stall and we took all of our visitors through the tasting of the different cheeses. And to start at that 2-week-old was magical, because people could taste the milk, they could taste the dairy, they could get the starting point, they could understand where it all begins. And then to taste the 3 months, and then to taste the 12 months and smell the rind and look at what's happened to it. I think people started to understand really what an incredible process cheese making is. It's not about just putting it in plastic and putting it in a fridge in their supermarket. This is the real McCoy. This is what really happens. And it was a thrill, actually, to watch people's faces as they just tried their way along and, read our tasting notes and read what it was all about. And And it was just really thrilling. So thank you, Mary, for that cheese. And I'm glad well, it was just such a success for everybody, really. And such
you
a
said you said that you had that people really liked the really young cheese as well.
Incredibly so. So, I mean, we're talking about something that was so dairy heavy, so milky, without being rude, but it was in that sort of almost childish Baby Bell milk product way, but much better than that, because it had a texture that was really unique to it, Mary, because it was so high liquid content, it was so high, it was sort of chewy, and as the cheese matures and it loses a bit of weight and it takes on that well-known texture of cheddar that we know, and that sort of slight crumbliness, this was something that was bendy and milky and dairy, and it was so interesting. And I thought it was going to be super popular with the children. They'd come along and they'd go, so people then said which was their favorite. And I have to say it was a proper spread across the three. So, there's always going to be people who like your 3-month buttery better than your 12 months or your 18 month. And so I expected that spread. That's just personal taste. But I thought it was going to be really child heavy on the likes of the 2-week-old. Not at all. I mean, there were people who came back to it and said, but actually it has a flavour all of its own. And when you had it in your mouth to begin with, it was bland sounds like a rude word, but it was quite ordinary. But after a minute, there was this just milkiness and this gorgeous sort of custardy thing going on, because it was like cooked milk. It was really unusual.
Sounds like you've got a new product to pitch there then, Mary, a new product coming up. And
thank you, Lucy, because I love curd and I love cooking with it, and I love that very young cheese. And what I realise is nobody else gets to taste it, and so you have opened out a completely new product, and we're making some tomorrow and we're sending it off to Heritage, on Monday, sending it off to Heritage, the following day.
But you see, that makes sponsorship even worthwhile all on its own, doesn't it?
And so we've now, thank you, Lucy. So we've got Jonathan has joined us. Jonathan, we're just on the round of everybody. His wife has now come home to take over the children, I believe.
Hopefully, she's in there somewhere.
We're just doing quick intros of where you are in the world and which company you're from, and then we're going to start. Mary's going to talk about her affinage of her cheddar.
Great. My business is called The Crafty Cheese Man, and I'm based in Lancashire, the Northwest, and I supply predominantly hospitality wholesale, and try to do something a little bit more interesting than other large hospitality wholesalers.
Fantastic. Well, welcome, and thank you for fitting us in amongst children and lunch, dinner time, and everything else.
If I can get away from looking after my kids, I'm all in. So
yeah, you go to work for a rest.
That's it. Yeah,
what most of us say. Yes. So Mary, we obviously want to talk to all the competitors and about their affinage journey so far. So they've had your cheddar since when did you guys get it? 21st of June last year, wasn't it? 21st of
July.
June, I think. Sorry, May?
July.
Okay. So, yeah, maybe you got it in July and it was born on the 21st of June. So Mary, I think it's really interesting for you to tell us. So when the cheddars arrive at the finals in London on June the 14th, they will then be more or less 12 months old. So tell us what, not in great length, but how you would have matured, and typically your 12-month matured cheddar up to that point, and what you would hope from that taste profile. And then we're going to chat to all you guys, round robin again, same order, of what you've been doing to your cheddar, or if it's top secret, don't worry, you don't have to tell us. And what are you hoping for by the time of June the 14th, which actually is not that far away. I'm quite scared. Where's this year gone to? So Mary, tell us.
Okay, so we make the cheese, and unlike the cheese that we sent off to Lucy, that we sent off without a cloth, because you're just going to have to take the cloth off and battle with it, we would from the cheese that literally, you know, is that lump of curd that's consolidated, we would dip it in hot water to form a skin. We would then add, put that back in the press, take it out of the press the following morning. We do the hot dipping on the morning of the second morning, and then we would to seal it, and then the following morning we would bring it out and cloth it and lard it. And sorry, I'm waving this one that's 15 months old, so I don't know why I'm doing that yet. And what we're looking to do is to create an impermeable rind, and with the cloth, we then seat the cloth back in the mold, goes down to our nursery store, and in the nursery store we keep that at between 9 and 11 degrees. I'm looking for a humidity of between 80 and 92, preferably around about 85, a relative humidity. And we will turn those cheeses when they're babies once a week, flip them so that and that's really important, because otherwise the moisture all sinks to the bottom and you get these elephant foot cheeses. And actually you start, because moisture is what drives maturation, you get actually completely different cheese at the top and the bottom, and it'll rot. You know, one end or the other will, you know, go skanky. And also the cheese will probably crack when you then turn it over. Then by the time it's 3 months old, it only needs to be turned once every 10 days, but we still want to do that. We still feel that that's quite important, because we feel it's important there's still moisture moving through the profile of the cheese, and we feel it's really important that we turn it before it starts sticking, because for us it's really important that if the cheese stick to the cloth, then mite can get in under the cloth, and when mite are in under the cloth, then they have a party, and you've kind of lost the cheese in terms of blue mold. So we've always been really, really, really rigorous about doing that, because we feel that's what gives absence, all of those processes, that's what gives absence of internal mold. What else can I say? Yeah, and then from about 6 or 7 months old, when the cheese starts developing the mold on the rind, the mold starts developing at about a month old, when that rind starts developing a sort of almost a life of its own, which we reckon is I know the Cornerstone project said that your microflora is really set in the first week or fortnight, which is why we wanted to get these cheeses sent off to you as young as they were, you know, so that they were unselected, the ones that you got. You know, don't know, we think that they're good, but we didn't make a special selection for them.
They were all from the same vat though, weren't they?
Yeah, all from and 8 kilos, because we thought that was kind of easier and more accessible for people to play with if there were 4 different styles of cheese, and it will mature slightly differently, of course, at an 8 kilo than a 27 kilo, because it loses more moisture. But you know, we thought that would be a sort of variation on a theme. And then from about 6 or 7 months, when you start to get, if you like, a proper mold on the rind, and that probably on your 8 kilo cheeses, that will probably start a bit younger, maybe 4, 5, 6 months, you then start to get mite. We feel that mite, if they're controlled, are helpful in terms of being kind of gardeners of the mold. If we're growing a mold garden, those mite are the mold gardeners. If they get uncontrolled, they're like teenagers at a party, and they just start being incredibly destructive and destroying their environment. So we, at that point, we've got a mite machine where we can blow those cheeses to take the mite off using air. we're using suction and blowing, sucking and blowing, like all the best things. And then so we'll do that once a month, once the cheese are that age.
Fantastic. So shall we ask Justin what's going on at number 2? Because you guys like a party up there. Are the mites about? Are the mites having a party?
We've been taming those down quite a bit. So the way that I've been maturing it, obviously near Spark and Hoe. So they're kind of very famous for having mites contracted on those cheeses. And like Mary said, that yes, mites can be a good friend, but obviously in small quantities. So it's something that we've been managing very, very carefully.
Fantastic. And have you got any questions for Mary about, I mean, presumably you're very happy. You're happy with your cheese at the moment?
Yeah, really happy. So when the cheese arrived in June, 2 weeks old, obviously very tacky. We had the first thing I wanted to do is not only age the cheese, but build this relationship about what our business is about. So obviously, not only are we British artisan cheeses, we specialize in fine wine. So I wanted to kind of create this story that linked the whole team together to age this cheese. So we actually went down the biodynamic route of using the lunar cycle to actually age the cheeses. So those got turned on a full moon day, using those attributes, even playing music to the cheese as well. So it's very famous, certainly in the Italian region, where they play music to their vines to encourage growth. So we thought, no, we'll get involved, play music to the cheese to see if those mites and flora would get their groove on, and improving those.
Tell us what music? Well, come on, is it all different styles, or are we sticking with a style?
Buble came out into season, but it's the best way I thought was, if we're being serious about it, creating music with more of a higher sound wave that could then kind of project onto the cheese potentially. You never know. But yeah, when the cheese arrived, obviously we've got our flora in the cave. So the first day it arrived, what we actually did, or I did, was actually rough it up, scruff it up a little bit. So you had all this lard around it. What I wanted to do is kind of create this crevice around the top and the rind. So that gave the flora something to stick to try and encourage rind development. That was the main focus that I wanted to do, is try and get this most amazing rind going on this cheddar. So with a lot of introductions of other methods. So I actually, for the first 2 months, turned the cheese every 2 days. But by doing that, with the cheeses that are around, so I had Spark and O Vintage, I had Stonebeck, I also had Mrs. Kirkham's. So some cheeses that were a proper shop favourite, but trying to create that surface biome. So every 2 days we'll turn in the cheese. It was actually moving the cheese clockwise. So with the slats that we had, we were creating this biome that could have a contact to the cheese, which you then found that on the top and the bottom, every time it was picking up more and more, even over the last couple of days, or every 2 days of turning. And then the other issue that we had was humidity. Humidity was a huge issue, certainly in the summer months, where the air was a lot drier. So what I wanted to do is find a solution of that by using a shower curtain and actually segregating the cheese off completely to all the other cheeses. So the cheese has been wrapped in a shower curtain. So not only is that creating a higher humidity, it's also collecting all this flora from those cheeses specifically onto the quicks, which I think has created something very special.
You've got so much going on there, Justin. It sounds amazing.
The one thing I would say is easier looking after my 7-year-old than it has been looking after this cheese. It's very, very hard.
They're putting you through your paces. Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And what are you hoping? Are Are you going to iron it before
No,
the
so I
competition
may
day?
do the day before, just to kind of treat the team, get them to also taste it before we take it to judging in June, just so everyone, because as much as I've been focused every day based on it, I'm very lucky to have a team behind me that when I am off, they will step in and give me updates 24/7. So it's always nice. Yeah, no, I've been really, really lucky.
You really need those.
The most amazing thing about this is I've now got a foundation of changing the methods that I've got going through with other cheeses. So the humidity, the temperature, I've actually been recording every day since day dot. So now I've got that as a foundation to move on throughout the rest of my cheesemongering and affineur career. So if I ever want to use that as records going through for other cheeses, I can use that as a basis and a foundation and change the methods if I ever wanted to at any point. So that's been a valuable lesson for me.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. And that's what this is about, be able to have new tools, learn from it and experiment at the same time, and then bring it to us all on June the 14th to taste and discover those amazing flavors. Thank you ever so much, Justin. I'm going to rattle on now to Andy, who's sitting patiently there in that amazing armchair. Look ever so comfy.
I just sit here and give orders. That's my main job in life, I think, isn't it? Just sit here and shout out at people.
I think it's amazing to actually get you sitting down, actually.
Well, no,
you never stop.
I'm anxious to go and do something, to be honest with you, but I'm here now.
Fantastic. Do tell us about you're pretty experienced affineur anyway, aren't you? So
well, we just wanted to do something different, really. I think that for us was we just didn't want to take the cloth bound cheddar and put it in our store, and we thought let's just try and change what would happen with it completely. And we debated on that, what we could do that would be dramatically different. And we debated even vacuum packing it or plastic coating it. And we decided we were going to remove the cloth on the second day, just because there is producers that do that. Historically, there is evidence that it was done, that the cloth is a relatively recent thing. Well, I say relatively recent thing. Historically, it was something perhaps added to aid British cheeses in transport and in more drafty conditions. So you go back when cheeses didn't go as far and they were much more enclosed within their region. Perhaps British cheeses weren't cloth bound, actually. So we thought, let's just strip it back and take the cloth off for no other reason than we just wanted to do something different and see what would happen. And so we shut the cloth on, and then we put another layer of butter over the top of it, just to kind of put another layer of butter on it, just to give it another, on top of that. There was some lard that did stay, even though we took the cloth off. We put a layer of butter on it. And then we have a few different places we could put it within our business. But the most suitable place was, we have one little store where we mainly mature Goudas, which is actually our biggest store and the one that's sealed all the time, so it's easier to control. It only mainly has one Gouda type that we have in it, but as a result, it runs quite a warm temperature, so we let it go up to 14 degrees. So we thought, well, why not? We'll put it in there. It's very different again, so we'll run it initially at 14, 15 degrees, like they would do perhaps in Comté maturation, because they're matured in a warm curing store first, and then we'll drop it back. So we ran it for a couple of months in that store, and then we've dropped it back to about 8 degrees now, just to kind of see, really, we just want to do something different and see what happened in that regard. It took longer to mold up than I expected, but that's mainly, I think, because what I stock a lot of is Wensleydale and Lancashire types, and even when they come in new, there's so much more moisture in them. I think they mold up faster. So I think it's probably due to what I'm used to, comparing it. When Mary talked about the length of time it normally takes to mold up, I think that, actually it was probably within that, but it was a lot longer than a Wensleydale, a Lancashire type, than I would normally expect that we get. Sometimes we get them in young. And interestingly, we do also store in that Gouda little store, we store cheeses that we do on the cheese making course. So they go into that store at 0 days old when we've done a cheese making course. They're Wensleydale recipes mainly. And it didn't pick up any of the fauna that is from that is usual in that store, even though which is I found quite interesting. So because the Goudas don't really have any fauna on them, they don't really have any molds or yeast on them. They're you know they keep themselves. Occasionally get a bit of white mold, but the cheese making course cheeses do. But it didn't pick up much of that at all. It kind of, it stayed kind of very cheddar-esque, which is, so that's kind of where we're at the moment. It's fully molded over. We've been measuring weight loss. It lost a reasonable amount of, as usual, it lost a reasonable amount of weight until it molded up. Once it had molded up, then that kind of slowed it right down. So it's kind of within what I expect. What am I expecting it to taste like? What am I expecting it to be like at the end? No idea. It is a bit of an experiment. We wanted to do something different, and if it turns out terrible, I'll hang my hat up and say, look, we want to do something different and have a go, and we have this different environment, so why not?
Fantastic.
Mary,
I think Mary's got a question for you.
What humidity was the Gouda store and then the Wensleydale store?
Yeah, so the Wensleydale one runs at quite high humidity. So when it dropped down to 8 degrees, that was quite high humid. But the Gouda one is fairly low humidity, so it's down about 18. It's right down at the bottom end for us, because they're such tolerant cheeses, Goudas. So we can, because of that, the wax and the plastic on them, we can run them. They're just, they're indestructible. We can abuse them, and it doesn't matter what we do to them. Whereas the Wensleydale store is quite humid. In both stores, we have very little airflow. In both stores, we chill using cold water radiators. So the Wensleydale one can become a bit ammoniated and can become a bit heavy. Sometimes we have to leave the door open, and it can become like that. The Gouda one's pretty, it's just pretty indestructible, that Gouda one. But yeah.
We've got a question actually from Patrick, and I was going to ask the same thing. So what's the butter that you could show you when you took the cloth off, then you re-added? Yeah,
I was afraid. The main reason was that I was afraid in that low humidity, warm temperature that I was going to get cracking, and I was just going to have a cracked, dry cheese that I was just going to have to pretend, or it came around a year later, that I just dropped it or something. So I just put the extra layer of butter on because I was really afraid of cracking early on in that warm, dry cheese.
And was that a clarified butter, a ghee style?
Yeah, it was just melted butter, so it naturally clarifies when you melt it. But it wasn't specifically clarified butter.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Andy. It sounds amazing.
We'll see.
Are you reasonably happy?
I'm reasonably happy with how it looks. Yeah. I was very afraid it was going to crack when in that type of environment, and so that and it didn't crack. So I was happy when that, and I was happy when it molded up, because it was, I'm comparing it to Wensleydale's, and it was slow to mold up, and now I know that that's probably within Mary's normal remit. That's nice to hear, in fact, because I was afraid of how long it was.
It's fantastic. We've already got
and just a comment that we would find, if the humidity does drop, it takes a lot longer to mold up. So that's really, really interesting, and really interesting that you're playing with the temperatures because and the airflows, because I think those are two things we want to understand more and are playing with at the moment at home.
Yeah, I think it can make a huge difference, the airflow and the temperature. The Gouda, the Comte guys have it down with, in terms of, they have different stores for starting it off, and then when it reaches a certain, and then they move it to a different one, then they move it to another one, like you have your starting one. And I think that they do a lot of analysis, more than we do. I think we just stick it on a shelf and hope for the best.
Well, that's why I want the competition, so we learn.
Yeah, exactly. So Sue's asking, and I think the question's for you, Andy. So that your colder store was more humid and your warmer room was drier.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct. Thank you. Okay, let's move. Thank you, Andy. Sounds amazing. We've already, with just two competitors, we've got two completely different stories already, which is fantastic. Svetlana, we're down to you. Well, we're up to you in Scotland. Sorry. Down to you, you on my screen.
I think
we're getting on.
I can relate to Andy. We did also want to do something a little bit different. Well, first of all, when we received our cheddar, we put it in our maturation room and we covered it in sea salt. So I just wanted to make sure that the rind is completely dry and it can be ready for growing mold on the rind. And we had that on for a few days. Then we've removed it, and it spent a couple of months in our maturation room, which is kind of our normal room, and we had it at 10 to 12 degrees and 86 to 90% humidity. So that was for the first 2 months. But then during that time, we had a little bit of a brainstorm. And first of all, we named the cheese, obviously. And everything that we do has to have a little kind of feminine touch. So we named it Bonnie. And because we're in Scotland, obviously, as well. And it sounds quite nice for a cheese, I think. And when we had our brainstorm, we also wanted to add a Scottish touch to the cheese as well, since we're up in Scotland, like you say. And what else could we do that's a bit different? So we decided to mature Bonnie in a whiskey barrel, which we purchased, and we put it in our maturation room. So we don't know which whiskey it used to hold. We just know that it was a single malt whiskey. When we opened the barrel, the entire shop smelled of whiskey for weeks on end. So we didn't want to just kind of dump Bonnie into the barrel. So we built a little kind of pedestal for it, if you will, and we put it on top. So it is kind of in the middle of the barrel. I didn't want to seal it completely and put the lid back on. So it was completely impermeable to air circulation. So we decided to leave the lid a little bit open. So there was a little bit of air getting in. And then we started measuring humidity and temperature inside the barrel. At Christmas time, we did need to reduce the temperature of the maturation room to about 8 degrees because we were holding a lot of Christmas stock there as well. And then after Christmas, we raised it back up, and it's still sitting in the barrel, and we're turning it regularly. We have been turning it at least once a week. And yeah, that's what I can say about our maturation so far. And we have tried it last Saturday.
Wow. And are you happy with the
I'm
taste?
reasonably happy. I don't know if the whiskey barrel is having a great effect on the flavor yet. I think it may need to spend a lot more time in there just for the flavor to get a lot more concentrated and kind of more noticeable. But so far, it's a lovely creamy cheddar.
Fantastic.
At least I'm relieved to know I've not ruined it so far.
Yeah. I think Mary was leaping up in the air there and going, wow, wow, wow. And it's again another really, really interesting journey. So for that cheese. And is the barrel in your maturing rooms or in the shop? In the maturing
Yes, it's in the maturing room. So yes, more or less the temperature is stable there and the humidity is stable therefore, because it's like a thing within a room. And yeah, but there is a little bit of air circulation. That was my idea.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you so much, Svetlana. Brilliant. So I think Will, I was going to go to Will, but Will, are we good to come to you? Cool. Coming to you. So Will, you're in Neal's Yard Dairy in Covent Garden.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell us all about your cheese's journey so far, because the room that you're sitting in this evening down in the cellars, that's what one of the original, it is the original shop, isn't it?
Yeah, well, kind of. Originally, they, just over 40 years ago, we opened up in Neal's Yard proper. And then about 30 years ago, we moved just around the corner, which is where I am now. So cool. Yeah, when they first started maturing cheeses, that was down here, which is now like our office. But yes, it used to be where lots of washing and affinage went on. But yeah, so we got our Quicks cheddar on the 30th of June. And I thought I would just try to sort of have a very minimalist approach to it and try to let the milk shine through, you know, that was the idea. Basically just turn it once a week. And so we just had it on the shelf in the shop where we have lots of cheeses, but usually we might have a cheese for up to a month or something until we've sold it, right? But not a year. And anyway, after a few months, I did iron it. And it was quite waxy. And I thought that I realized my error. I didn't want it on the shelf in the shop. The humidity there is about 64. And I realized we have a humidity cabinet, which of course is usually too small for a cheddar. So I was very grateful that we had the 8 kilo version, because it can now fit in our little humidity cabinet, which is just like it's just like a small cupboard with glass doors, and the humidity in there is usually sort of 90 plus. And so it's been there since November, and so I have earned it twice in its life so far. And in January it was much better. It had this sort of slightly spiciness to it. It was really good, and it had a lovely sort of cheddary bite. And so yeah, that was good. And it's basically just lived in the cabinet since then, and we turn it once a week, and that's it. And I've not tasted it since. I'm trying to hold off, you know. And it's looking good. And so in January the humidity was down to about 80, but now it's back up to sort of over 90, and it's about 12 degrees.
I think
So-
when we were in Covent Garden for the Northern Irish pick and cheese takeover, Rachel came in to take a photo, didn't she? And the mold growth is was looking good. Are you happy with the mold growth on the cheddar?
I am. I've actually
Getting
got
lots
it
of-
here. Would you like to
Oh
see it?
wow!
Let's
Hold
have
it
a look.
up. You may have to take your blur off for it to show. Oh no, that's fine. We can see. Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah. Interesting that it recovered from that waxiness, because I mean,
Yeah.
waxiness is basically when you've got a cheese that's drying out,
Mhm.
but before it can mature. So really interesting to me that you can kind of come back from that.
Yes, yeah, I'm hoping that it will recover. And I realized I should have had it in the cabinet all along. I realized my error, but hopefully it will be amazing by the end.
That's so interesting to know. I thought once it had gone to that, if you like, dried out but not matured, there was kind of no way back. But really, really interesting to know that you can. Yeah, thank you. I'm learning so much from you guys.
Brilliant. Thank you, Will. I like that it's you're testing it as you go along as well.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, last but not least, tell us, how's your journey going so far? Because this is your first time as in the competition as well.
I was going to say my story is nowhere near as interesting as anybody else's. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, bar making a mess of a couple of cheeses previously that I attempted to and had no idea what I was doing. Still don't really have much of an idea, but I've made a conscious effort to read. So I've read a book that was recommended to me by Max from La Fromagerie.
Yeah.
And just being a bit nosy and looking at what other people have done previously and stuff. And then just kind of thinking about what I want out of it and how I can learn. So I have obviously, because I'm wholesale, I don't have a shop front. I have one big walk-in fridge which holds numerous different cheeses. So it's very, very difficult to mature a cheese in a space like that. So what I've done is I've had it for a while now. It's where I made a mess of the previous cheeses. I've got a wine fridge that I bought maybe 2 and a bit years ago now. And it's got movable oak shelves in there, and it's interesting to work with because you can't set the temperature precisely. So it's like a normal fridge. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you have variation within that. So you have to use different elements of the fridge to find out where it sits best. And obviously playing with the humidity. So I put pots of water in there to get the humidity up, so the humidity is running. I went a bit higher with humidity just because in my head, having never done this before, I think a bit higher humidity, a bit more moisture in the cheese. And I personally like cheddars that have got a bit more moisture in them. That's just a personal thing. But then the problem is where I'm based, I'm actually based in an old dairy. So that's where the busy space up and it gets very cold in there. So during the winter months, the external temperature in the building really affected the actual maturation fridge, the wine fridge. So no, it had its highest setting, but it was still only like 9 degrees. So the cheese itself has actually gone through quite a lot of variation in temperature, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. If you can hear tweeting in the background, I'm really sorry. I've got little baby chicks in the office with me. So I'm really sorry if you can hear that.
Is this an Easter thing?
No, we've moved on to an old farm. We're trying to do something stupid, and I don't know. We've hatched them ourselves, and it's just a crazy house. I've removed myself from kids to be in a room with this. So
with the chicks, we love it. It's Easter next weekend.
well,
It's
yeah.
fine.
Well, we won't. Hopefully, they'll last past Easter. That's fingers crossed.
And how's the cheese looking then? So are you?
Yeah, I'm really happy with that actually. From seeing what you guys have been putting on other people's cheeses, like what Will's just held up then as well. Mine's sort of along the same line, so I'm actually really happy with it. I think the high humidity caused there was quite a lot of growth on the outside early on. I used the method that Justin spoke about earlier as well, using my palm of my hand at the beginning just to push it back in to try and get a bit more oomph into the outside of the cheese. And I'm sort of moving on to like light brushing now. Again, just from what I've read, just trying to really, again, for me, and I think I said this to you originally, Tracy, this is such a big learning experience for me. I was just so happy that you even invited me to do it. So I'm trying to use different methods as best I can without making a complete mess of the cheese, but trying to use different methods to help me learn about it as well. So that's,
yeah, which is brilliant, and that's what it's about. It's not it's fantastic that we've got Lucy and Chiswick Cheese Market as sponsoring the trophy, but it's about the taking part, it's about the learning, it's about the education, is the whole purpose of the competition, and to have a bit of fun. And we love it when you people have named the cheese and you're all experimenting. And I think,
so mine's called Linda.
Oh, Linda, you've got
Linda's actually my bookkeeper, but is also one of the best cake makers I've ever met in my life. So it was kind of I jokingly named it after her, and then it's like as a joke I said, "Oh, I'm gonna name the cheese after you," and then it's just stuck. And that's why when I put things on Instagram about, we put another couple of cheeses in there, we put an Alpen cheddar in there and stuff to sort of bring other elements in. We'd always put, without sounding too crass, we'd always put 2 male names in there with Linda on her own, just because we thought it was quite funny.
Just to see how they got on. And we've got a question for you from Sue Brown. Hi, Sue. What was the book that Max recommended from La Fromagerie? He has it here. Oh, now Sue Sturman, other Sue who's in the audience, I think translated that book into English. So it is a very excellent book.
Well, part of the reason that book as well is because I was due to go on Sue's course next month.
Okay.
But I literally just had to change it to October because I'm due to have a hernia operation. And I cancelled it on the basis that they said to me it'll be within the next 4 weeks, and it just so happened that the operation is in the Wednesday that's slap bang in the middle of when I would have been in France. So so the book sort of came recommended on the basis that I was doing the course as well. So
right, okay, but I mean that's great, because I hope the operation goes very, very well. You'll have that to look forward to, won't you?
Amazing, yeah. And the book's fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that, to be honest with you, probably went over my head a little bit. But I think that's a great starting point for me to go and do the course, and sort of a lot more of it will make sense. But for me, never having done it before, that book was really useful.
Yeah, it's got a lot of point by point, isn't
it?
We've got another question for you here. I've got to get my eyes in now. I'm getting that old and it's getting later. What is your most important motivation when making cheese? Oh, so maybe this is for Mary. It's from Yetkin. What is your most important motivation when making cheese, like I'm going to make the world's best cheddar now?
Oh gosh, I think when we've got a vat of milk, I do feel I'm trying to find, what's that? There's a beautiful cheese sitting in that vat of milk, and I want to find it. Like I got inspired when I was a kid, and I read a book about Michelangelo, and he said that when he saw a block of marble, he wanted to find the beautiful statue in that. And I just think it's like alchemy. When you look at a vat of milk, how does it get to be this extraordinary how does this liquid go to a solid? I just get a sort of, oh my goodness, this is an extraordinary and magic. I know it's like there's some science to it, but to me it always occurs as it's like a miracle. Do you know what I mean?
that is the romantic side of it, isn't it? There's the romance versus the science, and I think you need a little bit of that, where Justin is doing it with the moon and the full moon, and they're going to turn the cheese, and that is the alchemy, isn't it? Lucy, have you got any questions for our affineurs? I think, how are you finding their story so far?
You know what? We're just so excited and so thrilled, and I can't wait to meet the ones I haven't met yet of you in June, because for us it's what makes it all worth it, isn't it? And I mean the excitement of it. I just want to recap, because actually, does everybody have a name for their cheese? Has everybody named their cheese?
So Svetlana and Jonathan have. Svetlana's cheese is called Bonnie and Jonathan's is called Linda. Has anybody else
Justin,
named their cheese?
I think you've got a name, Justin.
Yeah, ours is called Luna.
Oh, yours is.
Ooh.
And you two guys are just too cool to name, I can tell.
Well, I wasn't sure if I was going to drop it and pretend it was dropped, so I thought that would be a bit rude to name it if it was going to. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Those I think the thing is 8 kilo cheeses. That was another reason really to send out an 8 kilo cheese, because they're more robust, and a 27 kilo cheese will crack if you don't treat it right, whereas an 8 kilo cheese is much more robust, because I don't know why, but I think there's less gradient of moisture between the inside and the outside.
And Sue's rightly saying, so there's other competitors in this competition. So Rennet and Rhines, Perry has named his Keith, I remember. Who else? So we also have, if people who watched and followed Affineur of the Year last year, we have Tim from Lincolnshire Poacher. He's also got some cheddars there. They just were unable to join us tonight. Paxton's in German Street as well. They've got a competition cheese. Who else have we got there? And the Fine Cheese Company as well. They've joined us this year. Brindisa have also got a competition cheese. They are not covering it in Spanish olive oil and paprika this year, but I haven't heard what they are doing. So we will wait with bated breath.
Fran's interviewing Rupert actually next week, so we might get a little heads up on the Chiswick Cheese Market. So she'll.
Oh, okay.
So she'd love to talk to all of you, so she'll be contacting you. So Fran's our social media team member, and she's done a little bit Justin already because he was at our market. Because Rupert was at the market last time, so she's just doing a little bit with him. But we'd love to hear and just do a little reel or whatever, so we can put it out there for everybody to listen to.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lucy, very, very much for your support, because the more we can get through social media, through people's marketing databases, through their emails and whatever else, however you reach or and talk to your customers, the more we can talk to them about affinage and the competition, the more people understand it, and the more people will look out for great cheese, because it is a massive part of that.
I think certainly
those wonderful cheeses.
We have cheese lovers who know a lot about cheese. There's a lot of knowledgeable people who come to our market from far away and nearby, but the local community supports it hugely. They come every single month and they buy a month's worth of cheese, and to watch them in 15 months of us running the market once a month on their journey of understanding cheese has been thrilling, you know. And now they're commenting on minutiae of different cheese knowledge, that whereas before at the beginning it was just so much cheese, and now they're commenting on, you know, whether someone's was nicer this week and didn't you see that, and it's just really exciting, because actually it's very infectious talking about cheese, I think.
Yeah, and that's what you know, we've got a wholesaler here with Jonathan, and we've got some amazing cheesemongers, and I think you guys would agree, Andy, Svetlana, Justin, with the restaurant and the wine, that, and Will, obviously legendary cheesemongers, that your customers mature with you, and you and they keep coming back, don't they? I'm sure. Let's hope. So
Oh,
if
yeah,
anybody,
definitely.
yeah, good. Well, that's what it's all about, education, and this is the whole point of going into a cheesemonger rather than scanning the supermarket shelves. going into a cheesemonger, because they'll give you a taste of what you think you might like to try or what they're offering that day, and they will give you a taste and tell you all about it. And that's what we love about you guys. Have any of our competitors got any questions for Mary while she's here on the next journey? So how many more months we got? What are we on today? We're at March, so you've got April, May. So you've got another 10 weeks really, haven't you? 10 weeks. Anything you need to ask? Got Sue saying something here in the chat as well.
I wondered, what can you tell us about the cows, Mary?
Ooh, what do you want to know about the cows? Lots.
Yeah, whatever you can tell us. What breed are they? What breed are they?
So what we have, because I feel it's makes the best milk for our cheese. We have crossbred cows, Frisian, Holstein, Swedish Red, a little bit of Montbéliard, teeny bit of Jersey, tiny bit of Brown Swiss. And what we're looking for, what we aim to do with our cows is to be grazing outside from Valentine's Day to Christmas, because we think that that gives an absolutely lovely milk. The fats are softer, and so you tend to get in our cheese, compared with, say, a cheese made with maize-fed milk or milk from inside, you tend to get these lovely shorter chain fats that are just gloriously yummity. And because we're using these combinations of breed, we're actually able to start thinking about what kind of protein that we want. So we've got quite high BB kappa casein in those cows, which means that we can hold quite a lot of fat in, and again that lends itself to sort of lusciousness of flavour. And what we very much looking to have animals that are happy to graze outside. If you get a sort of pure Holstein cow, they don't want to be grazing outside, they're not happy. So we're looking to have these cows that are really happy. They're block calved. We've got a group that block calve all at once. The spring calving block, there's only 10 cows left to calve in that block, and the autumn calving block calve in late August and September. And again, that means that actually we don't have to use late lactation milk, which is a much more difficult milk to work with.
I would imagine the milk on that these cheeses were made with, Mary, if that was June last year.
Yeah,
were we in the really hot period? We were, weren't we?
Yes, we were really hot, and we were, we still did have some grass. The milk would have come entirely from the spring herd, and they would have still been out pretty much almost entirely. The whole diet would come from grazed grass, and we're looking to work with diverse swards with different plants in those swards, because I'm really starting to get really interested, as lots of cheesemakers are, in the impact of those swards, the plants that are growing that the cows are eating on the milk. So we use plantains and chicory and that sort of thing, which gives tannins, which assists with sort of parasite control, but also starting to get really interested in I always think in June you've got starting to get some lovely clover impacts on the flavour of the milk, and I'm not sure about that. Actually, am I making that up? But certainly June cheese at the moment is my favourite.
You write a diary about it, woman.
Oh well, yeah. I love cows.
Amazing diary. If you haven't read Mary's diary, so Lucy, go ahead.
Actually, that fascinates me, because I spent 15 years in the French Alps, and I'm very, they obviously make a huge distinction between winter and summer milk, because the cows are eating a completely different diet, and that first spring cheese, that summer cheese, is off the pastures where it's had the snow sitting on it and everything. And definitely the spring flowers, they differentiate the cheeses even from the summer milk. So I'm really interested that you're experimenting in that, and I think it would be a really truly interesting thing to hear more about that from you, and which is, you know, what difference it makes in the end. So for you, your absolute favorite cheddar that you make is made with your June milk or your...
Yeah, at the moment, kind of, I want to like the September cheese, actually, and that used to be my favorite. But at the moment, you know, we just tend to get, you know, every cheese because we grade all the cheese at 3 months old and 12 months old, and to see how it's developing. And actually, you know, you get to June and kind of every vat is just orgasmic.
Excellent.
And therefore, these guys have got the June milk.
Yeah. I was really happy that the timings worked, that you got June cheese. And of course, you know, these 8 kilo cheeses will taste different because they will tend to lose a bit, you know, they'll lose maybe 10% moisture over in our store, they'll be losing roughly 10% of moisture as opposed to 5% of moisture. And that will create huge difference in, if you like, the maturation pathways that you're going to have. But, you know, we just felt, I mean, I'm really interested in the impact of size of cheese on maturation. And that, to me, that's a whole new angle that we could, you know, there's another wonderful rabbit hole we can go down there.
Thanks. Let's try and manage that for next year then, eh? So what's going to happen now, guys, because we're kind of we've run over a little bit over time. We were aiming for an hour. So thank you all so much for joining, and thank you to everybody in the audience for joining too. What will happen now is on June the 14th, all the competitors will bring their competition cheeses to London, and we've got 8 judges signed up to, and they're all experienced cheese judges with excellent palates. We'll judge all of the cheeses on the day. The competitors will cut their own cheeses, so they will get the first look and smell and taste of their cheese. But anybody who attends the finals will also get to taste all of the cheeses and judge them as well. So exciting times ahead. I hope the next 12 weeks are fantastic for all of you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Someone's just popped another question in the Q&A. Oh, Thomas said it's all right. He's missed it. Don't worry, Thomas. So there's a recording of this, and we will send that out to everybody afterwards. So
is that Thomas Perry?
Thomas. I don't know. It just says Thomas. He's in California.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Thomas from California.
We're all. He said the daylight hours are different, so hopefully, Thomas, you'll be fine, and we'll send you the link to watch the recording. Sue's asking, are all the competitors ripening all the different cheese styles? No, they're not, Sue. So basically, some of them are. Some have got all 4 cheeses. Some have just done a couple. Some are doing 3. It's all different. So, which is very exciting. So we've got different competitors. I think there's 17 competitors in all. I'm going to wrap this up because everybody wants to go and get some dinner or say goodnight to their children. Thank you, Mary, for joining us. Thank you, Lucy, so much for sponsoring and joining us as well. And to you most precious people, affineurs, wholesalers, mongers, makers, restaurateurs, we love you all. So thank you so much and good evening. See you at the next one. Date to be confirmed. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for everything you're teaching me.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, everybody. We've just thrilled at the Chiswick Cheese Market. Everybody's welcome, 3rd Sunday every month.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good luck, everyone. Good luck.
Good luck.